What up, y'all? I'm Rajay,
And I'm Shy, and welcome to the RXS
the
podcast.
podcast where we provide inspiration, motivation, and information to the music community. Gang, gang,
Yeah.
gang. Oh, yeah.
So, what are we talking about today, babe?
Leaving home
Oh, wow.
and building a career outside of home and outside of your family.
Wow.
Yeah, a very inspirational person to me,
Mhm.
and I'm sure he will be an inspiration to you all. So let's get into the pod. Peace. What up, y'all? I'm here with Sherrod Barnes,
What's up?
the one and only. How you doing, man?
Hey, I can't complain, man. God is great. God is good.
What's been up lately?
Oh, man. Lately, I mean, my life is pretty much the same. I mean, I've done a series of Broadway plays, which is not of the norm of what I normally do, but, I've done a Tina Turner Broadway musical, Almost Famous, and a couple off-Broadway shows as well. So that's been the latest. And I still do various gigs here and there with other people. So, yeah. Still is music all the way,
Absolutely. So I want to do what we normally do, and I want to go all the way back. Take me back to the beginning.
Whoa.
Little Sherrod. Where were you born, first of all, for people who don't know?
I was born right in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Yeah. Right here in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
What was it like growing up?
Man, I had the most fun. The most fun of my life was growing up with my sisters and brothers.
Yeah.
When I look over my life, that was the greatest time of my life. No worries. Of course, when you're in the home with your mother and father, you have no worries. They take care of all your worries. So that was the best time for me. When I think back, those are the really great times. My sisters and brothers. Yeah.
So is everybody musical?
I would like to think so. Where if I don't know if everybody is in terms of outwardly singing or playing, but they have some sensibility of music where there's just knowing what having knowing what good music is, or pinpointing certain things. Yeah, it's only a couple of us that Deborah, myself, and Wanda, who would you would say, okay, these are the three who really have music in the forefront. Lisa too, but Lisa's very quiet in that sense. So,
yeah. So when did y'all discover that you guys could sing and play?
Wow. Oh gosh, that's a good one. I can tell you this. I think when I was 4 or 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to play an instrument. I knew that then. My inspiration was my Uncle Roy. That was my inspiration on as it pertains to a hands-on instrument. He was my inspiration. So I knew at an early age that I wanted to play music. I guess I don't say I guess God put he sprinkles your gifts on you, and it just happens to be that music was mine. So
wow,
but my inspiration really came from my uncle.
Yeah. So
Uncle
then,
Roy.
how old were you when you actually picked up an instrument?
I had to have been 5 or 6.
Wow.
My dad had an old silver tone guitar.
Yeah.
I just talked to someone about this recently, one of my musician friends in New York. He remembered those guitars, the Sears and Robot guitar. My dad had one and had, strings were missing, and the string height was so high, you couldn't fret the guitar. So it was crazy. But that was my first experience. And my mother, there was this thing called Amway. I don't know if you guys remember Amway, where you buy enough stuff and you get points. And with the points, you can get a gift. And my mother got me a ukulele.
Wow.
That was the first. My own instrument was a ukulele, but the funny or sad part was it. I sat it down on the bed. My older sister sat on it, and with splinters after that. It was. And I tried to revive the guitar. There's no way I can do that, but I was so brokenhearted. But I hung on to that guitar for a long time because I thought I could fix it, but it was no fixing after that. So, I think like at 4 or 5 years old, that was my first hands-on with an instrument. Yeah.
And then, how old were you when you got a real guitar?
My first guitar was when I started playing with Luther, and I got my own guitar, like my first guitar was a
Yeah.
Gibson Les Paul. I'll never forget this because we traveled we went to Boston,
Okay.
and we usually travel with a U-Haul, and we have, we load our equipment in there. My guitar happens to be the first thing you would get to when you open the door. We went in to get food in Boston, and somebody cut the lock with a bolt cutter, and my guitar was the first thing there. That's what they stole out of the U-Haul. So I was so I was excited to have the guitar and brokenhearted because somebody broke in the trailer and stole the guitar. So that was my first guitar.
How long did you have it before it got stolen?
I only had it like maybe a week.
Jeez.
It might have been that the first time I played it and the last time I played it. It could have been that too. It got stolen very, very soon after that. Yeah.
So
I was crushed.
So tell me about those days with Luther. What was that like?
Wow, man. I was so excited about music and playing, but very shy. I was the only one playing with the Sunset Jubilaires at the time that would sit down because I was so shy. I call myself hiding myself, but when you sit down and everybody's standing up, you're really like exposing yourself, So, but Luther gave me my first opportunity to play, and he, very open and very given, in terms of, I wasn't a great player who would be great at that time, but he still gave me the opportunity to play and all that stuff. So, that was the greatest times for me is just going through that period when things are fresh.
Yeah.
And you're learning things, you're discovering things. So Luther really gave me the opportunity to explore musically.
And how old were you at that time?
When I started with them, I had to been like 14 maybe. Wow. Yeah. 14 and super shy.
Yeah.
So I laugh at it to this day. I laugh at it because it's ridiculous how my mind was. I was like, man, look, you're exposing yourself. You're not really hiding from anyone. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So then y'all started traveling. Did you practice at home when y'all weren't on the road?
Not as much, because here's the thing. When I started playing guitar, Sammy, which is Luther's oldest brother,
Yes.
he played in the open tuning. So did I. I copied the way he played guitar because I had no other sensibility of what to do with the guitar or how to tune it. So I started playing in just open tuning. And I noticed further along that all the guitar players that I liked sounded differently. Everything that I played was played differently. So I was like, okay, I couldn't get to those things that I really like because playing the open tuning, you can get the chords open, but when you play closed chords, it doesn't really sound like the guys I like. So it took me a minute to really, once I tuned the 440, then I started to play. I started to practice all over the place. I was like, okay, everything started to make sense to me.
Wow.
So yeah. So I started practicing. I was really listening, practicing, and at that time we had records,
Mm-hmm.
and if you wanted to learn a riff, you would have to slow the records down.
Yeah.
So you would have to slow it down to learn what the guys are playing and all that stuff. So it was actually the best time of my life.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And so, what kind of stuff were you learning and listening to? Like, who were you influenced by?
Oh man, I think the guitar player that I was listening to the most at that time, I think, was Jonathan Butler.
Ooh.
When I really got into guitar, because I think he is, and I always liked jazz, but I'm not a jazz. That's more of a lifestyle. I like jazz, but I'm not a jazz player. But I love to hear, jazz players improvise and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I would listen to him, but he was I would say the easiest, because he's a singer songwriter, musician. Easy to pick up some of the riffs he does.
Yeah.
And I could grasp it a little better.
Yeah.
As opposed to Wes Montgomery or George Benson, who's just
Yeah.
out of this world talented.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So then you're on the road, you're
Mhm.
learning these songs, and then you start to do the sessions with Luther as well, right?
I started doing sessions. Some of the first records I did sessions on, like God Gave Us, The Best That He Had. I mean, when I listen to the stuff now, it makes me laugh so much.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness, Yeah, it's just it's humbling I would say that.
Yeah.
Because to look back and see where you started from until where I am today, it's like a dream come true. It
Yeah.
really is, and
Yeah.
it shows my dedication to the art form. Yeah, yeah. So
Did you find that playing on stage and doing the sessions were different at that time?
they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's it's funny how when you're in the studio, when a person push record, how nervous you can be, how insecure you can be as far as your vocal, whether you're playing an instrument or singing, you get a little nervous. Playing on stage is one take, so it doesn't matter. You get what you get when you're on
Yeah.
stage. So it took a while for me, and it's still to this day. It depends on what the genre is. You still get a little uneasy with certain things because it's almost like somebody's looking directly at you.
Yeah.
When you're doing that, like when you're playing live, it's just one take, and people get what they get. So
Yeah.
So it's a different approach to the two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you about how many years were you with your family before you moved?
I want to say from the age 15, because I played bass with FC2, so I would switch from guitar. Bass was my first instrument.
Okay, so we got to go back. So
Yeah.
now we got to go back. So you were
Yeah.
playing bass first.
Bass first, because I was inspired by my uncle. My uncle was my inspiration, so I always wanted to play bass. So I started playing bass. I started learning that. Started playing in church. But I could take it back further, because Pope. Let's say
Yes.
his son Sweet, who passed away. God rest his soul.
Yes.
My brother and I used to go to his place because he had all the gear.
Okay.
So we didn't have all the gear at that time. At that time, I had to been like 7, 8 years old.
Uh-huh.
He had the drums. He had the drums that light up, the bass, guitar. So we used to go to this place all the time just to mess around with the instruments. But I think I was out of my brother and I was the one that really got into music. He was too a little, but he was more of an athlete than I. I was too, but I was more into music than he was.
Yeah.
So I started playing bass. That was my first love. So I was doing that first,
Uh-huh.
and then started to play in church, on one string, because I couldn't play bass. So after a while, I started to learn how to play bass. So that was the first instrument that I would say that I played out openly, because at church you always you have the opportunity to play.
Yeah.
Now FC wasn't going to say don't play, because he kind of said yeah do that.
Yeah.
But it's a growth, there's a growth thing too. So
Yes.
yeah.
So how long did you play bass before you picked up the guitar?
I kind of did them simultaneously.
Okay.
I liked them both, but when I started playing with Luther, I was playing guitar. Around 14, I started playing with him. So I was learning some chords from Sammy. Just for certain things, he would show me some things in the open tuning.
Yeah.
So, but bass, and to this day that's my first love as an instrument. I love guitar, but bass is the one I think I have more sensibility on, because that was my first love.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So do you still do gigs as a bassist now?
I do sometimes. I subbed on Roberta's gig, Roberta Flack. I play guitar and sometimes play bass if the bass player wasn't there. I'm capable of playing. I just don't play. I don't get called to play bass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And some of the bass players are very intimidating,
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
I still, you can make you a little like, I don't think I want to do that. But, as far as, I'll give you the tonic, you know what I'm saying? I can hold my own playing the bass. Depending on how complex the music is.
Yeah.
But that's, I feel at ease on bass because that was my first instrument.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to the place where you're doing the sessions, you're doing the gigs.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually you decide to move away.
Yeah, because, well, here's the thing. After a while, I was growing so much. I was growing so much musically that, and I think Luther noticed it too. He was aware of my growth because he started incorporating me into certain things because of it.
Yeah,
my
like
music.
yes.
Yeah. So that's that's the thing. Like once I don't want to say I outgrow that I outgrew what I was doing with Luther because I think his music is timeless. Because I can refer to it now more than I could. And I appreciate it now more than I did then.
Yes.
So yeah, I just started to just outgrow where I was. People
Yeah.
started calling me to do certain things and playing, but I still give Luther the credit for that because once he started using other musicians for his recordings, I think I was the only one out of them that was playing. You know.
So you're saying he would hire outside musicians,
yeah.
but you were still
Yeah, I was still a part of that thing, and not to diminish the greatness of the other musicians. It's just that just like as I took a stance and moves, Luther was developing too. He was
Yeah.
seeing things in a
Absolutely.
broader way, and still he would, he still kept the musicians. It's just that I think when you start listening to music and seeing how things are put together, the level of professionalism, the level of musical knowledge.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just grow in a way where you just outgrow where you are,
Yeah.
and then you just so that's the same thing that happened with me. I just outgrew it in a way.
How were you aware that you did?
I mean, sometimes people let you know.
Wow. Okay.
Sometimes you just when I would go play with Luther, you when you're around great musicians and great musicians notice your gift. All the guys, Spanky and all the great guitar players, Dwight, all these guys, Mitch that used to play with the Williams brothers.
Yeah.
I just started to grow and develop, and I became one of those cats.
Yeah.
So then I knew that I was at least going headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
In terms of my growth. Yeah.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
then when did you say, okay, I think I've done everything I can do here. It's time to move on? How old were you?
Maybe in my 30s.
Wow.
I think I was in my 30s because once I started doing these sessions in Atlanta with Luther, I met other people.
Yes.
Other people started calling me to do other things. So
Wow.
Kevin Broughton was one of Luther's pianists that did a lot of the records. They would call me. So I would
to do other sessions for other artists.
I would go to Atlanta like at least every other week to do sessions, or I played on Candy Staten's record. I did some live gigs with Ann Nesby, The Sounds of Blackness. So they started to place me in situations, and most of the people that I work with, they call me back to this day.
Wow.
I can still work with them. So I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that God has really given me something, a tool to use to show His greatness. So
yes.
that's so I want to say I was in my maybe before my mid 30s, because I could very well been in a place musically that my peers were not moving towards.
Yes.
So then you have to branch out.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because to some people that doesn't feel good.
Well, never. It's not supposed to. Growth, when you have growth spurts, it doesn't feel good. But it does not diminish what the outcome is, what it's supposed to be.
Yes.
It's not going to feel good. So, I mean, of course, my father didn't like the fact that I would move on. He didn't like that because he's so used to me being there. So I understand that. It wasn't meant to feel good. It was meant to appreciate and accept. Some things you have to accept. That's it. That's how life goes. Life is never peaches and cream, as they say.
Yeah.
But it can turn to that based on how you deal with the adversity and things of that nature. It can turn into peaches and cream. But I had to move in a way that I was led in a way. This is, your final stop is not where you're from. It's just moving out from where you're from. That's how I felt about it. I moved out from where I'm from, and that's what you have to do. Sometimes you cannot stay in one spot and do what you do, and that may not feel good to everybody. Wow. So that's the way it went.
So how did you deal mentally and emotionally with knowing that some people supported it and then some people felt away?
I never lost love for my family.
Mm.
You know what? After a while, it's almost like getting a cut. It hurts at first, but it heals. So, time is the time is the operative word. It takes time for people to get used to that. And once, they saw that I was um, kind of happy and successful in what I was doing, then acceptance
Yeah,
it comes.
it almost goes from dang to I'm so proud.
Absolutely. But that's what it is. It's almost when if you've been with someone long enough, the separation gonna cause some friction.
Yeah,
It's not an easy departure,
yeah,
and it's not meant to be an
Yeah.
easy departure.
yes,
We have to accept life. We accept death.
yeah.
It's not an easy departure, but it's a part of life. So
Absolutely.
so yeah.
So where did you move to?
When well, Atlanta was going to be the spot I moved, but then I got called to do Roberta Flack's gig. I started subbing a lot for her. So
How did you get that call?
well, my friend Jerry. I
Okay.
have Jerry Barnes and Catrice Barnes. They were great artists. They're my favorite sister brother team.
Yeah.
They did some sessions with me and my sister and I, and from that session they asked me to move there. I didn't move there right away, but they did ask me to move there to play with them. It took me another 2 years to do it, but um, doing these sessions, Jerry noticed my talent, and Roberta's guitar player was going back and forth. He was playing with Luther Vandross and her. Sometimes he couldn't make Roberta's gig, so Jerry said, "Oh, I know the guy who could play," and that's how I got the gig with her. So my friend Jerry Barnes is responsible for me getting the gig with Roberta. You can see how God works, everything's just started to line. So it makes sense that that what God gave me from an early age is what I supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it's not of my. It's I give all the glory to God for everything that I have.
Yeah.
It's not because of me. It's because of what God has given me.
Wow.
So I use that, and I thank God for that.
Yes.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So what was your experience like playing with Roberta?
Oh man, I can tell you this. I played with many people. I played with Whitney, who's one of the, that's somebody that I always dreamt of playing with, and I had the opportunity to play with her too, which was a great experience. Roberta, to me, I think musically was like going to school. It is, because you have to learn dynamics. You have to learn to play with someone that has a soft voice. You have to learn when to play something, how loud to play something. Dynamics was a big thing in her music, but she gave you the freedom to do what you felt in the music, as long as it was within the structure of what she does. She didn't mind you deviating from what you hear, the records and that things, as long as it was good.
Yes.
She allowed me to do it. So it was school, but you still had the freedom to express yourself.
Yes. So I want to ask you that because you're the master of that. What is the key to being expressive without going too far out?
You have to listen. That's it. You have to listen. You have to listen to what's going on around you. Here's a good example. Sometimes Roberta would use 3 guitar players, and that's a lot. And I play with Dean Brown is a great, great guitar player. Phil Hamilton is a great guitar player, and then myself. So you have a rhythm section. You have percussion, drums, keyboards, and sometimes 2 keyboards, bass, 3 guitars. If you're listening, sometimes you don't participate. That's how deep it is. You don't play a note because there's no room for it. That's when you're really developing your ear for what's going on around you. You may play 1 bar or 1 riff. When you have 3 guitar players that play and and still sound musically, then you're doing something right. But her gig taught me those things, where you playing with a lot of musicians, and sometimes the best thing you can do is lay out. That's you know what I'm saying?
Yes, that's
That's the
heavy.
best thing you can do is to lay out. But to know that is to listen to what's going on around you. And I'm not saying it's perfect in that, but it helped me to grow in a way where most people have to tell me to turn up. Could you turn up something? And that's what you want. So I have no problem sitting in with people, and I think that's what when people hire me or or different bands I play with, they like that part. It's better to less is more sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So who are some other artists you started to play with once you moved?
Wow, man. Well, so we got Roberta Flack,
Yeah.
Whitney Houston. The first two I did with her was Whitney Houston, Natalie Cole, and Dionne Warwick. So these are some of the greatest of all times that I had the opportunity to play with. Greg Fillinganes. I did a lot of stuff with him. I did a lot of things with him with the same artists and with Quincy Jones. We did this thing in where was it? Rome. I did this, with it had various artists there, Alicia Keys, and had a bunch of people on these things. So Greg Fillinganes, who in his
He's-
own right is one of the greatest.
amazing.
Yeah. So him, Ray Chu, I play with a lot too, who does Dancing with the Stars, Apollo Theater, and so many other things. He would call me to do things as well. Wow. I co-produced on Beyonce's first record. Angie Stone, I co-produced on a record of hers. So I had doing production and playing.
So let's talk about that.
Mhm.
How did you get into the production, and how did the Beyonce thing come up?
Well, production, I started doing it with Luther. Yeah, I had started developing. I've always liked to write and create stuff. But Luther was the first one to give me an opportunity to do that. So from that, I just kept writing stuff. And this is crazy how your gifts will make room for you. It's crazy
Yes.
how if you look at my picture from coming from here to where I have been and where I am now,
Yes.
it blows my mind.
Yes.
But these are things that usually you have no control over.
Yes.
The right people come at the right time. That's what it has been for me. God never failed me. That's what I want to tell you. God never failed me.
Yes.
I have some rough times, but God never failed me in that way. So all these people, that's my phone, I bet you. You can move my bag. But anyway, that's how, I met this guy, Fanatic,
Uh-huh.
who produces a lot of artists.
Uh-huh.
And he's the one I used to do stuff with, and he got the song "Speechless" to Beyonce, that we co-produced, and it just came together like that. I couldn't tell you.
So you
why.
and Fanatic just made the track?
We made the track, and he pitched it because he was the one doing most of the legwork with this, with the production. I mean, I was hands-on production, but as far as
Getting
the
it to
avenues,
people, the
getting it to people,
placements, and
yeah, he was doing those things. So that's how that happened. That was like, I wasn't expecting that. It just happened, bro. I can't explain it to you.
what was your feeling when you heard it got placed?
I was excited. I was happy about that. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, this is I'm doing something right. I
Facts.
felt. So that's how I felt. I didn't get too overly excited about it because I'm not, I tr-
All right, hold on. Y'all,
Yeah.
we're going to take a break. What up, y'all? I'm Rajay, and I'm interrupting the pod to present an opportunity for y'all to support the brand and the fam. So do this for me. Head over to rajxshaw.com, click the merchandise tab, and grab a hoodie, t-shirt, or hat. And remember this thing. No matter what people say or think, live your life. Now back to the episode. All right, we cut your phone off, so we back now.
I'm sorry.
So no, you're good. So one thing I want to ask you for like producers and musicians who are searching for placements or desire to have placements. It sounds like you just teamed up with someone and it was a natural progression versus like forcing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, usually that's I usually that's how I do it. I'm not the kind of guy that's very aggressive in trying to get stuff together. I let it just come to me, basically. I mean, I guess I could use a little bit more aggression in that way, but music, the music industry is kind of oversaturated in doing that kind of thing. So, that, I mean, when I was doing it, when I had these records going, that was like the end of that kind of era.
Yes.
But now everybody you do stuff at home. You can,
Yeah.
so it's just a lot of it going on.
Yes.
Mhm.
So what was the business side of that?
That's what you have to watch.
Mm,
That's what you really have to watch, the business side. That is where the problem comes in.
yeah.
Anytime you're dealing, it's it's a side of doing music. It's another monster to deal with the
Yes.
business. That's when you have the most issues with the music industry, is that part of it.
Yes.
And I mean, I've been through some stuff where I was unfairly treated, and it happens to the best of them. I don't think you would, you know, I don't think there's not one producer that hadn't gone through that stuff. That's the
Yes.
nasty part of it. Not getting credited for stuff that you did, and people just taking advantage of your talents. I had it all happen.
Yeah. So how did you deal in those situations?
Well, most of the time, for me, if someone, I mean, I give people a chance to redeem themselves. If I work with them before, I say, okay, cool. It's almost like I hit you and we said, okay, I'm sorry. But if it continues to happen, I would just not deal with them anymore.
Yeah.
I'd cut it off.
Yeah.
Because after a while, I'm just being a fool. And that's what I don't want to be.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'll cut people off if they're unfair. I don't care who it is, really. That's the truth.
Yes.
It's not worth you getting used.
And what would you say to people? Because there are some people, Sherrod, that
Mhm.
will put up with that
Mhm.
because of what they think it'll get them in the long run.
Well, I mean, you have to pick your battles. For instance, if you're dealing with somebody like Quincy Jones, you have to be a little bit more flexible because you know what he brings.
Yeah.
You're dealing with somebody like Beyonce, or perhaps I never worked with Michael Jackson, but if you're dealing with somebody like that, you're dealing. It's worth your while to deal with him. You can deal with him and be a little flexible in your the way you deal with him. Sometimes not to your liking or advantage. It's to their advantage, but you look at the big picture,
Yeah.
what it may bring to you. So you have to pick and choose who you deal with that way. If the big artist, you have to have flexibility. I'm not saying you have to have that, but
It's
it's a gamble. It's a game. You know what I'm saying? If people blatantly just out to use you, then I cut that off.
Man, listen, it's crazy because I just dealt with a situation where I was going back and forth wondering what I should do
Mhm.
because I know it didn't feel right.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I want to make the best of this situation and I want to hope the best, but this feels funny.
Yeah.
And like on the outside looking into some people, like there are people who are extremely successful,
Mhm.
who being attached to them looks amazing.
Right.
But behind the curtain, it ain't so
Absolutely.
good.
That is the truth. You have to, you have to pick your battles. When you feel that, you should really pay attention to your intuition.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should say yes or no. Would be up to you.
Yes,
But
sir.
if you feel something isn't right, you feel like no, they're not dealing with me right. It's up to you to say, hey, you can say what you want. You can come into a situation dealing with, you can say, this is what I like and this is what I don't like.
Yeah.
Most of the time when you're dealing with artists and we go in there very naive and happy to do something and not on the business level, and you can get representation if you don't have that quality. So I didn't have that kind of quality, but I would get somebody who did have it.
Yeah, because what can happen is
Mhm.
people recognize when you're naive.
Absolutely. And insecure. People sense, especially the sharks out there, they know they know what that is.
Yes.
And they will take advantage of it. They trust me. I've been through it. So
Wow.
yeah.
Is there one story, you don't have to say no names, but is there one story you can tell the people where that happened and what you learned from it?
I can tell you this. And I can give a name because I can appreciate what he did.
Wow.
This is Mario Winans. And this is, and I'm not saying this to slander him. I'm just saying this, the power of somebody saying, I'm sorry.
Wow.
This is what I learned from him. He didn't, at that time, he didn't have to pay me for what he owed me because I appreciate it. He came to me like a man.
Wow.
And said, so I did sessions with him, and at the time, for whatever reason, money things and all that stuff, it didn't pan out that way. But during the pandemic, you know what? He called me. He called me and he apologized to me. And this is the way people should be. You should be able now to reach back that far and remember those things. To me, is amazing for a person to remember, because at this time it had been 2 years since I talked to him at all, and he called me and he said, "Man, I want to apologize to you, and I want to pay you for what I didn't pay you for." Never had that happen before. Even if he didn't pay me, what I did appreciate
Was the apology.
the apologies and the acknowledgement. Because most of them don't do that. You just don't hear from them anymore. But he manned up and came back, and then he paid me too.
Yeah.
So that was one of the I would normally I would just not work with the person anymore, and I still may feel that way to some degree. But I can appreciate he's the first to ever do that.
Yeah.
And I've been used by a couple people, but he's the first person who ever came back and said that he was sorry for the way things went down.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He manned up and came, and then he paid me too.
Yeah. And I
So-
think that's important because things do happen.
Yeah.
Situations do come.
Mhm.
Sometimes we're in cloudy spaces.
Yeah.
But to come back around
Yeah.
and want to fix it,
Yeah.
that shows where your heart is.
Absolutely. That's the way you should do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you should do things the way, but things don't happen the way you want them all the time. So, I mean, I'm man enough to know that some things you just have to let go. Whatever the situation is, you have to let it go. But I could appreciate the fact that he called me
Yeah.
and he wanted to right what was wrong.
Yes. Absolutely.
Not all everybody else. I don't want to mention anybody. Not like that,
Right.
but he was. So
So the next question I want to ask you
Mhm.
is like, throughout your career, how have you gone about choosing what to say yes to and what to say no to?
well, I look at my overall needs, whether it's my living conditions, my children. I look at all that stuff, in that's what I think about in terms of somebody asking me to do something, the time it would take to do it. I live in Jersey. Some people have stuff going on in New York. I look at, all of that. You have to look at time. You have to look at what they're asking for. All these things go into me saying yes or no to something, And I do some things for free.
Wow.
I've done that. So, but generally that's how I go about saying, yeah, I'll do it, or no.
So how do you go about choosing what to do for free?
That's just if my heart.
Yes,
I'm led
sir.
to do it that way. Somebody would ask me to do something, say like, I don't have this. I said, cool. I can appreciate somebody being straight with me.
Yeah.
I don't want somebody to send me the smoke. Just tell me what's straight. I can appreciate a person being honest with me and saying, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
And then that's when the heart comes in.
Absolutely.
I say, boom. And then, a lot of times I'll just do it. I have a friend that did this recently. Just I said,
Wow.
I don't have anything.
Yeah.
Could you do this for me? I say, absolutely. And I just did it. But, it's a give and take, man.
Yeah.
Not everything is money. Like, he may in the future say, this dude did this for me, and right when I need it, he's paying me for something or getting me involved in something. So you have to know, I can appreciate a person's honesty. Just be honest with me.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I need from you.
Yeah.
Whether it's a paid gig or not, just shoot straight.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
How have you dealt with the ups and downs of the music industry?
Well, the ups and downs teaches you, ups and downs to teach you what to do, what not to do. You have to go through some ups and downs to know how to deal with situations. Like, a lot of times with musicians, it's always been this. So when you're up here, you learn that when you're up here, you have to reserve some of your money and things of that nature because that bad time is coming.
Yes.
So you have to think about the storms. You can't think about where it's going good now. And anytime, the platform can be snatched from under you.
Yes.
So that's the way I had to learn how to manage. But I went through some hard times with money and all that stuff in music, man. But you learn from that. You learn, okay, budget and, being smart with what you spend your money on, saving money and, having children helps that too.
Yes.
Because I have 2 that I have to take care of, so it's not so
Yeah.
much splurging I can do
Yeah.
anyway. So, yeah.
Did those hard times ever make you want to give it up?
No, I looked at it as 2 totally different things. My love for music, it's like having music and music business, 2 different things. You can have money, but you can have millions of dollars, and if you don't know how to manage it, you can lose it. So it's two different things. You have to know how to use money, how to manage money, this and that and the other. It has nothing to do with your gift. Your gift is your gift. You love to do that, but if it becomes an art form, you definitely have to know how. Money is a whole art form of itself. So, yeah. So that's, you've seen it.
That's a good point, though.
You've seen it many times. You can see some of your favorite basketball players, sport figures who have tons of money. And if you don't know how to manage money and you don't have somebody else who knows how, they can be broke in no time.
Yes, that's true.
So has nothing to do with that. I love music. Nothing that I've dealt with stopped me from loving music.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that. It's the business part of it that be like, but I never said, I won't play or do something, if asked to do so,
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
First of all, let me reiterate that money is an art form of its own.
It is.
Like, so the same way we learn how to master the craft of our instrument, we need to learn how to master the craft of money.
You said it.
Sheesh.
Yes. Anybody who had money and lost it knows that. They know that. Yeah. And I've had it and lost it.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn how to manage it, you will lose it again.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with your talent. That's just what you're given from playing.
Absolutely.
But playing alone, if it wasn't an art form or had nothing to do with money, it's fine for me.
You would
because
still
I love
play.
it. I would still play. It's the love of music. But business can taint any art form.
Yeah, it can.
It can.
It can.
Yeah. So you have to know how to deal with both. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about the writing side, because some people don't know, and I want you to share with them because they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know, especially gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Producers don't know that when they create melodies that inspire what comes next, that they are songwriters.
Yeah.
Some musicians and producers don't know that the song is not just the lyrics.
True.
Did you always know that?
I didn't always. I think for me, I learned from producers who take advantage of stuff. That's how I learned. I mean, I learned from that the hard way.
Yeah.
I mean, I did something with full fours for Ashanti, and in the studio, it's just me and Jerry writing stuff. Who I think is a great producer, by the way. I don't want to put nobody down because I'm past that, but I'm just giving you an example of not knowing writing, not knowing what the producer is, not knowing what you can do music and still be a writer, not a producer.
Yep.
So I learned all that stuff with them, but I still felt like what I brought to it was so much more than what they were giving me. Because if it wasn't for what I brought to it, it wouldn't even be a song. So that's how I look at that. So, okay, if you're going to put me on the writer's share, don't give me, you're dealing with some arrogant producers and big time guys. I don't want to say names, but they're gonna, just because of their name, they're gonna snatch the lion's share of stuff. So I learned from them that, okay, you have to always protect yourself. You have to know who you're dealing with, man. It's not an easy game to play. You have to be strong in your moral stance with people. If no matter what it is, you can say no to it. I'm not doing it that way. You have to know who you are, feel strong in who you are and what you bring to the plate when it comes to putting stuff together. I knew what I was doing, but these guys, some of them stronghold you, and they use, well, this is how Barry Gordy did it. This is how they use those guys as an example of how, this is not right.
Right.
If I did something with you, if it's me and you, why do we need to discuss the splits? It'll be 50-50. That's a no-brainer to me. But when you're dealing with certain people, you have to let it be known.
Yeah, that's crazy.
If somebody's working with me, I ain't gonna have no problem with giving them what they deserve.
Right.
Period. That's how it goes.
Right.
But you have egos. You have people who wants to be the brand of everything. They want to be out in the forefront. They want to be the one who controls everything, although they're not the ones who putting it all together.
And then they love to use, you got to pay your dues.
Yeah. I've heard that before. Yeah.
It's like, all right, at what point are the dues paid up?
They're not. It's just, you decide that.
Wow.
You can decide that yourself. I decide that for myself, what dues to be paid. Wow. Not somebody telling you have to pay your dues first. It's one thing. It's one thing to say you have to pay your dues, which we all do. But it's one thing to use that with somebody when you know you're unfairly treating them. Yes. That's two different things to me. Don't say I have to pay my dues so you can get the lion's share of the money. Yes. That's not fair. You're doing that just so that I can pay my dues. I'm paying my dues. Yeah. My dues have been paid as we speak. Yes. So why should I shaft you or take money from you that you earn? Why should I do that? Because you got to pay your dues. That's a lame excuse for using someone. Woo! A lot of times it's very unfair. Yes. Yeah. So, but you decide it yourself. Yeah. You can say yes or no to something. That's for sure. Yeah. When you know your worth. But sometimes when you work with people who you idolize, you don't think about that. You just all Google all into it, and you don't think.
So how do you manage, because you've played with a lot of big names, how do you manage, like, okay, I know how big this MD is, I know how big this producer is, I know how big this artist is, but I got to handle my business?
I mean, I've never been starstruck. Never been overwhelmed by seeing somebody for the first time. I think one guitar player, and this probably wouldn't even be in, a Larry Carlton I really love as a guitar player. That's one guy that I was like, I wanted to shake it. I was really Googled over that, but as far as the artists, I've never been the one that I have not a lot of photos with most of the artists I play with, because I just give them the space. What I come there for, what I think about for the most part is to do a good job. And I think about my family. That's what comes first to me. That's a reason why I've been, connected with these people, with some of the artists that I play for. There's a reason why I'm there. And I've been good enough to be there. Yes. I've been good enough to be there. That's enough for me. I've been good enough to be there. And that's not bragging or anything like that, because I'm not that kind of person. Yes. But if you call me, and you call me a couple of times, I must be doing something that you like it. That's right. Yes. So I don't trip. I never tripped over artists before. Absolutely. Just never did. I appreciate them. Playing with Whitney is a very prestigious thing to say or have on your resume. It helps to do other things, because people assume that you're a great musician if you play with those artists. Yeah. And, so the assumption was right.
Yeah, for sure.
I felt, I'm very comfortable in my skin. I mean, I have a lot to learn musically, so I'm open to that. But man, I'm grateful to the Almighty God for where I am. Yes. I couldn't tell you, I'm grateful to God, because it allowed me to take care of my children. And all the pieces put together were not my own. They were not mine. There were things set aside. I think that God, He puts you in a position, and He opened these gates for you to go into, and that's how I contribute all to the Almighty God for where I am, where I have been, what I've gone through, the lessons that I've learned. He put that instrument in my hand for that reason. Yes. For that reason, that's why I play the guitar. Wow! So it's all that we can teach and show God's greatness. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. I owe it all to God. Yes.
What up, y'all? I'm Rajay, and I want to say first, thank y'all for the support, thank y'all for the love, and thank y'all for watching and listening to this podcast. We really don't take it for granted. Hey, if y'all want to continue to support us by spending y'all money, I got a way for y'all to do that. Y'all go to rajxshaw.com and pick up that Make It Happen hoodie today. Life be crazy, but we still got to do what? Make it happen, gang. Mm-hmm. If you had to inspire or give encouraging words to an aspiring musician or producer who's out here today, what would you tell them?
never give up. Put God first. Put God first, because if you step on a nail, he's going to pull that nail right out of your foot. If he puts a nail in your path, it's for a reason. If he puts a wall in your path, it's for a reason. You have to trust God. You put that wall there, the wall there's for a reason. It's for the elevation of you. And I had many of them, and God has allowed me to climb over them.
Yes, sir.
So you put God first is what I tell a musician today. Young musicians, I mean, there's other things, details and stuff like that. But man, listen, we serve an almighty God. You feel that way. You know that way. It's bigger than me and you that knows all. So that's what I would say to a young musician. You have to put God first. Trust your gift. Never give up. Stay hone in on your craft. Try to get us, take your craft to another level.
Yes.
That's what I would say.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. All the stuff, all the roadblocks are meant for you. They're meant for you. they're meant for you. When you hit one, just take it. It's a lesson to learn.
Yes,
it's a lesson to learn, and it's a lesson to teach. That's how I look at it. All the things that I've gone through, I can teach my children.
Yes.
Had I not had those lessons, I wouldn't be able to teach them anything.
Yes.
So the hard knocks is a part of your growth. Wow. It's a part of your growth.
So do you have conversations with your children about hard times?
I do with my daughter now. She's 16 years old. My daughter experienced a lot of the things that I experienced myself growing up. So now this is the perfect God we deal with. So if she experienced the same things I experienced, I come through them. I can teach her how to come through them.
Yes.
That's where we are now with my daughter.
Yes.
I say, I know what you're talking about. I know what you mean. I know what you're going through. Here's something. I just gave her a book the other day, the 4 Agreements that was given to me. I bought it for her. I said, I'm going to buy you this book. I want you to read it. I want you to look at it. And, if you read 10, she says you read 10 pages a day. I said, do that. If you don't understand something, let me know. So we're here to learn. We're here to teach. Yes. You can't teach if you ain't gone through anything.
Yes,
you just cannot teach.
Absolutely.
You can't teach that way. You're going to have to get some knocks upside your head to know.
Absolutely.
And that's another conversation, because I think that's what's wrong with children today. They have no boundaries. Yes. It can be good in a way, but bad in a way, because my mother and father were like the theory, putting your hand on fire, it burns, and you wouldn't put it on there again. The lesson is learned.
Yeah.
You won't touch it again. So this goes deeper than what we're talking about now. But
absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And I think that's a big deal to talk about, because when musicians talk a lot of times, or when producers get together, singers, we have a lot of conversations about the music, but we're people with lives.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we're in situations where you could be doing something with somebody where their performance is not good because of what's going on. And we'll easily say, hey, man, you ain't on your game, like send them home or whatever. But there might be an issue where if you just ask him, is he okay?
Yeah.
You'll learn something that you didn't know.
Absolutely.
Have you ever been in any situations like that? Or have you ever had conversations with your peers and bandmates about real life?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, like now in my, I'm 56 now. So in my, I certainly do now. That's what the conversation is. Conversation isn't all the time about, it's not like just music in general. It's just how music affects you. Yeah. It's the inside stuff. Isn't so, we talk about those things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life is different. Once you pass 40 and get 50, life is way different. You try to pull the brakes on things. You start to look at things differently. Your taste buds are different. The people you hang around are different. Yes. You don't do all the stupid things you used to do. Yeah. So you grow, Yeah. Yeah.
Now that you've gotten older, are you on the road as much?
I'm not on the road as much. Recent time, I started with, I was doing Broadway shows, which, allowed some things to be very structured. I might think that musicians need anyway. You need, even if you're not in a structured situation, learn how to manage what you have. Yes. Don't spend above your means. Yes. Those are things to really, really consider. Because my daughters, Well, I call Patiri my son because it's from another relationship. I still look at him as my son. I tell him all the time, I said, just, don't waste your money, don't waste your things. You make sure you take care, because I've been through enough where I know the platform can be snatched from underneath you at any time.
Yes.
So you have to protect yourself. So
Has a platform ever been snatched from under you before?
many times. Wow. Deservingly so.
Wow.
Because how would you learn? A lot of times when you're on a path and you're not thinking straight, all of a sudden, all my hard knocks was the best lessons for me.
Woo.
All of the tough ones, man. And I've been to places where I was broke.
Yeah.
That is the truth. I tell you, no lie. I've been to places where I was broke.
Yeah.
Or at least I thought it was. I still had money coming in certain ways, but the lesson I learned from it was valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You have to go through some hard times to know what that is.
Yes.
You have to hit that brick wall head first, and that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the hard knocks.
Yes.
Because you can't teach anything if you don't have them.
Yes.
You can't always say what's good. That's because there's good and bad.
Yes.
And they both can be equally strong or stronger than the other sometimes, depending on,
Yes.
yeah, I thank God, man.
Yes.
That's all I can say for every up, for every down.
Yes.
Because I know that in my downs, he lifts me back up again.
Absolutely.
And there's something to learn while you're down in that pit.
Yeah, man.
You reflect and you start to dig your way out.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's how I see it. Yeah.
You've been up and you've been down. You're here now.
Yep.
How is your mental health?
It's great. I'm still, I'm looking at the shape of the world at this time in my life. And you begin to see things, man, you be like, people who doubt, you have a lot of people don't believe they're God, don't believe in Jesus, they don't believe this and that and the other. But I'm saying at this time and point in my life, I was like, dude, you got to really start to look at. I'm looking back from what I learned from FC Barnes. This is the truth. I'm looking back. I'm looking back at some of the quartet groups that I grew up with, and I'm singing some of the songs that they used to sing. Wow. When I'm in my time of despair, those songs bring me up. So I'm saying that the world is like people are dangling from a thread, holding on, but they're not holding on to the right thing. That's where we are, I believe, in the world. What I'm seeing, you got so much division. You got people, platforms, one believe in God, one don't believe in God. Somebody had perspective here, perspective there. Confusing. And that's how the devil works. So now, something made us. Because when that spirit leaves you, your body's not moving anymore. That is God. So I know there's a God. Some people who think there's not one, how do you not know that? Because when your spirit leaves, nothing that you have flesh lives anymore. It's just that thing that comes out of your thing that makes you talk and think. That's only God given. Wow. So in my mind, it's not so much music. It's just at 56, you come to the realization of things, man. And, that's where my mind is.
Yes, sir.
Our creator. People think of heaven and hell. There's no heaven and hell, but a lot of people say there isn't. Nobody's been back to tell you either. But I refuse to believe that God brought you here just to make money and buy houses and cars. For what? What is that? Has to be a bigger purpose for your life. Wow. After this flesh is gone. Wow. That's how I think of things. And it's, you got so much, man. There's so many interpretations of that. But I will say that I believe in God. Yes. I believe there is a God. Yes. Nothing ever shook me in that way. Yes. Nothing ever deterred my thinking as far as that.
So I want to ask you about your playing because it is very, very apparent in your playing. Mm-hmm. Like when you play, you have to be like unaware to not feel something.
Wow.
Has anybody ever said to you like, Because, like, of course, when you do like the Roberta Flacks and different stuff like that, that's quote unquote secular.
Mhm.
Has anybody ever told you like, no, I felt something different when I heard you play?
Many times. I mean, that can happen throughout the night when I'm playing with someone. Um, Roberta will make gestures sometimes when she hears something that's magical. As anybody that I play with. So, when I'm playing and involved in the music, it's already on the spiritual level. It's not of my own. It's just what comes out. When most musicians, that's what comes out. I mean, I have a lot of musicians, guitar players who I admire, who are on that level too.
Yes.
It's like, whoa, no matter what they're playing, that gift that they have, it comes out. So I'm not always aware of what my plan may do for somebody else.
Yes.
And I'm not always aware either. I know when God uses me is the best times for people to feel something. It may not even be, I don't know, choice of notes played. It could be one note played that people feel something.
I'm trying
from.
to tell you.
So
I've seen it a lot of times.
yeah.
I'm like, that man playing one note, but good grief.
That's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
You should allow God to intervene on when you are doing something that He gave you. You want to be the best representative of that, and doing it through the one who gave it to you is the best way. So,
So I got one more question.
Sure.
And we out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is going to help some people too.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage your relationship with God while doing music that's not gospel?
Well, here's a tricky thing. I know you can find this true. Have you ever heard music, secular music, that touched you? And try to separate what's been said, what's been played. Even secular musicians, it's a God-given gift. Any musician can feel that, whether you believe in God or not. You can feel that. It's a national thing. That spirit doesn't lie on a genre all the time. It does not lie on a genre. But get the best out of it is to give God the glory. That's the best out of it. To get the best out of it is to give it back to the one who gave it to you. So I've heard many things that moved me, and I was like, this dude is in the spiritual place, and he may be playing something about what happened to him. Listen, there's so many things to learn from. That's how big God, you can't put God in a box. There's so many things to learn from. But you have to acknowledge the one who, the creator.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I do. I acknowledge the creator in whatever I'm playing, because he tells you to. Yeah. Acknowledge me.
In all your ways.
That's right.
Yes.
You said it. You said it in all your ways. Yes. All your ways are not liking to the creator. Yes. But he said, acknowledge me in all your, and I will make your pathway clear. Period. That's it. So I get a lot of, I see guitar players that reach me it's just music. It's just their heart pouring out. That's all it is. I can't look at the lyrical content. It all has its place. You heard this, there's a time and place for everything under the sun. That's in the book. Yes. There's a time and place for everything. Yes. It didn't say right or wrong, good or bad. There's a time and place for it all. Wow. So, I can appreciate someone singing from the heart. Whitney, that's a God-given talent. Yes. You don't, no matter what she's singing, you don't always have to know what she's singing about, but you can hear that what God gave her. Yes. You can always hear that when she sings. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. I ain't talking about, she can be singing about a guy, but you can hear what God gave her. Wow. You can hear that. Now, she acknowledges that too, no matter what she's doing. We would pray all the time before the gigs, and sometimes have Bible study on Whitney's touring. Yeah, we did that too. Now, even in her state, even where she was in her life, she never denied the fact that the Almighty is in her life. Wow. She was just smothered by these things. She was smothered by all the things, but I always thought Whitney was trying to dig her way out. She was trying to dig her way out of those things because she wanted to get back to the root of everything, which is God. For her, that's what it was. Yeah. She never missed a time not praying. Wow. She never missed a time not saying hallelujah, thank you, God, on stage, even her state. And that's acknowledging God, whether you're right or wrong. It's just giving him his props. It's just that simple.
Yes, it's that simple.
I don't put it on a genre, man. When you feel something, it ain't gonna always be hallelujah, thank you. You can feel something from people's, not so much of what they saying, but how they're delivering something.
Yes.
There's a lot to hear in music. There's a lot to grasp from it. I can learn how to sing stuff and sing gospel. I can learn from Whitney or Donnie or whoever and sing gospel music that way because they have a gift. That gift came from God too. It's not of their own.
Sheesh.
When you hear stuff like that, it's not of their own, man. Trust me. If you hear somebody that sounds great and sings great, it's not of their own. God gave them that. What they do with it is another thing.
Woo!
But you cannot deny the gift, whether you saved or not. You cannot deny the gift when you hear someone that can really sing, because that's God given.
Yes.
What they do with the gift, who knows? But I give glory to God because it's not me. It's Him who gave me what I have.
Absolutely.
So I acknowledge Him in all my ways. Yeah. That's important to do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, man. I'm
Thank
glad
you for
you asked
being
me
here.
to do this. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of the RXS podcast with Sherrod Barnes. Peace.
Peace.
Just live your life. Every day you wait, take the time to realize that you got that fire. Keep it burning, don't let nobody put it out. Just live your life. Every day you wait, take the time to realize that you got that fire. Keep it burning, don't let nobody put it out. Just live your life.